John Gill, 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 9. Reading first from the King James Bible, quote, "For they themselves showed of us what manner of entering in we had unto you, and how ye turned to God from idols to serve the living and true God." Unquote. John Gill, quote, "For they themselves show of us either the above reports of the preaching of the gospel to Thessalonians, and of their faith in God, or rather the persons to whom these reports were brought, openly and publicly, and largely declaring concerning the apostles what manner of entering in we had unto you, under what difficulties they labored, what contentions they had with the unbelieving Jews, what reproaches were cast upon them, and what persecutions they endured when they first entered the city and synagogue and preached the gospel to them, and in what manner they did preach it, with what boldness, sincerity, uprightness, and affliction, and without flattery, covetousness, and vainglory, and affection, and without flattery, covetousness, and vainglory, and with what power it came to them, and what success attended it, and how readily, cheerfully, and reverently both they and that were received by them, and how ye turned to God from idols immediately and at once upon the preaching of the gospel to them, being first turned by the power and efficiency grace of God, for the first works of conversion is God's work, when they themselves, under the influence of the same grace, turn to the one God from their internal idols, from their sins and lusts, and from their external idols, their many false and fictitious deities. For the Thessalonians, where the gospel came among them, were idolaters. Here the Diicabiri, the great and numerous other idols, where the Macedonians, and particularly the Thessalonians, worship with great devotion and reverency, but now they turned from them and forsook them, to serve the living and true God, who is called the living God, because he has life in and of himself, and is the foundation and fountain of life to others, from whom all living creatures have their life, and are supported in it by him, in opposition to the above idols, which were inanimate things made of wood or metal, and were images of man that had been dead long ago, and the true God, because he is truth itself and cannot lie, who faithfully performs all his promises, and is to be worshipped in spirit and in truth, and not in opposition to the nominal and fictitious deities of the Gentiles, which were only in name, not in truth and reality, or by nature gods. Now, though these Thessalonians had before done service to the idols, they now turn from them to serve the one living and true God, not only externally by embracing and professing his gospel, submitting to his ordinances and walking according to the rules prescribed by him, but also internally, as in the exercise of faith, hope, love, and every other grace." Unquote. In the King James Bible, verse 9, quote, "For they themselves show of us what manner of entering in we had unto you, and how ye turned to God from idols to serve the living and true God." Unquote. End of John Gill, chapter 1, verse 9.